Hi, Peter Thomson here, and welcome to the Economics of Innovation. So I've just finished having a coffee at Look Ma No Hands with my friend Peter Albertini, who's one of the photographers who shot the Converge project a couple of weeks ago. And we were talking about why is photography so important, because he's a photographer and obviously really believes in the power of photography as a storytelling tool. And it's interesting because it's come up for me when I've worked in PR, when I've worked in design, even in social media. There's something about photography as an art form that just seems to really grab people. It's when a brand becomes real, you know. So you can work on these kind of branding and design projects for months or years even, and it's not until you get to the photography that suddenly it's like, wow, okay, well now we're telling a story. Now this is real. I think the reason for that might be that it relates to the way our brains process an image. I think when we watch a video, there's just so much happening. There's a background, there's a narrative. It's kind of quite immediate and you're led on a journey. But when you're shown a photo, your brain can kind of scan it and look for what you want to see. And I think that's a little bit like the way that we look at life. You know, so our eyes and our brains are used to looking for images and looking at images, and I think photos somehow allow us to process things in a really vivid way. I think the second thing is that you can use photos with text, which is really interesting, because if you think about the medium that most people really love, it's going to be magazines. You know, what's the most relaxing kind of way of consuming media? And I think we don't read enough magazines anymore. I think we're all kind of browsing the internet constantly, and I think we've lost a little bit something in terms of the way that images and text work together on a magazine page. My mentor was Brian Richards, was kind of obsessed with magazines because they were, what he used to say, they were layered for the intellect. You know, you've got a big image, big portrait of someone. If it's a feature article, you've got heading, you've got subheadings, you've got the pull quotes. There's a lot going on in terms of text and imagery working together, which is really important. So I think it's one of the things I've been thinking about, is really getting back into buying and reading more magazines. So I love Wired magazine. I think the way they use photography is really interesting. And I think Monocle magazine as well. So if you're interested in design and communications, chances are you've probably come across both of those. But when was the last time you actually went out and bought a Wired magazine or bought a Monocle magazine? Because they're just so rich in terms of photography. So really to pick up one of those magazines and actually pay attention to the photos themselves and how they tell a story, because they really do, you know. And I think it's something that when I'm working on my design projects, I always think about, okay, well, photography is just such an important part of telling a story, and to be intentional about that. And I think it's quite rare to find photographers who actually want to take on that challenge, because it's not easy. You know, you've got to really understand what the message is, what the intent is from the designer or the PR people. It's kind of a drag having to figure all that out, but I think a good photographer is always going to be interested in telling a story.